Can you believe it? The so-called leader of the free world, Donald Trump, is throwing tantrums like a toddler denied his favorite toy, all because Canada finally stood up and said, "Enough is enough." We are talking about a nation that's been America's quiet, reliable neighbor for centuries, suddenly drawing a line in the snow and declaring, "Our borders, our laws." And we're not bending them for anyone, especially not for a bully in the White House. This isn't just a diplomatic spat, it's a full-blown revolution in North American relations, where Canada, under the steady hand of Prime Minister Mark Carney, is proving that true strength comes from principles, not bluster. And oh, how the mighty are falling. Trump's aggressive grabs for control over Canadian ports, his desperate pleas for our uranium, and his overall disregard for sovereignty have backfired spectacularly, exposing him as the emperor with no clothes, while the world cheers for the Great North's defiant stand. Let's dive right into the heart of this mess, starting with those Canadian ports that Trump thought he could just waltz into and commandeer. Picture this. The United States, under Trump's administration, demanding operational oversight over our vital gateways, places like Vancouver and Montreal that aren't just docks, but the lifeblood of our economy, handling everything from grain to goods that keep Trump's team justified it with the usual fear-mongering about security, claiming they needed to plug some imaginary backdoor to prevent stuff like fentanyl or Chinese products from slipping through. But come on, who are they kidding? This wasn't about safety. It was about extending American jurisdiction right into Canadian soil, turning our sovereign territory into an extension of their border. And Prime Minister Carney, with his background as a former central banker who navigated global crises without breaking a sweat, saw right through it. He responded not with hot-headed rhetoric, but with a cool, calculated defense. Sovereignty isn't negotiable. If we lose control of our ports, we lose control of our future. That's the kind of leadership that resonates, folks. Measured, firm, and unapologetically Canadian. Why does this matter so much? Because ports aren't just concrete and cranes. They're the choke points of global trade, where one nation's meddling can throttle another's economy. Trump's push here reeks of hypocrisy. The man who built his brand on America first is essentially saying America everywhere, ignoring the fact that Canada has managed its borders securely for decades through cooperation, not domination. Data from Statistics Canada shows our ports handled over 350 million tons of cargo last year, contributing billions to our GDP, and we've done it without needing Uncle Sam's permission slips. Past events? Remember the softwood lumber disputes or dairy wars under previous administrations? Those were petty compared to this. Trump's escalation is a new low, treating Canada like a vassal state rather than an equal partner. A hypothetical quote from a Canadian dockworker sums it up. "We've shared intelligence and borders peacefully for generations, but now Trump wants to plant his flag on our docks? No thanks. We'll handle our own house." And internationally? The United Nations has weighed in, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres criticizing such unilateral demands as a threat to multilateralism, pointing out that respecting sovereignty is key to global stability. The EU, too, has condemned Trump's approach, with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stating in a recent address that bullying allies undermines the very alliances we need against real threats. Even Chinese President Xi Jinping has shown favoritism toward Canada, praising Carney's principled stance in a state media piece, hinting at strengthened ties that could see more Chinese investment flowing north instead of south. It's delicious irony. Trump's aggression is pushing Canada into warmer relations with others, while he isolates himself. But wait, is this port grab the only arrow in Trump's quiver of overreach? Hardly. Let's talk about how his own backyard is crumbling under the weight of his incompetence, like that FAA grounding of his precious Boeing 757. Oh, the symbolism. The man who jets around preaching about American greatness can't even keep his own plane in the air because of basic maintenance failures. The Federal Aviation Administration, that no-nonsense body ensuring planes don't drop from the sky, slapped a grounding order on Trump's jet after finding discrepancies in records, things like missed inspections or unapproved modifications. In simple terms, if the paperwork doesn't prove the plane is safe, it stays on the ground, no exceptions, even for a president. Trump's campaign, already a chaotic circus, ground to a halt, rallies cancelled, staff scrambling for charters, and the whole operation looking like a deflated balloon. From a Canadian perspective, it's poetic justice. While Trump demands control over our infrastructure, he can't manage his own. Prime Minister Carney, ever the statesman, hasn't gloated publicly, but his government's quiet support for international aviation standards underscores Canada's commitment to rules over egos. Stats from the FAA show over 1,000 groundings annually for similar issues, but Trump's case highlights his hypocrisy. He rails against bureaucracy, yet expects exemptions. Past news? Recall his administration's attempts to pressure regulators on Boeing's 737 MAX issues, same pattern of corner-cutting. A UN aviation expert might quip, if Trump can't follow basic safety protocols at home, how can he dictate them abroad? And Xi Jinping? He's reportedly chuckled over this in diplomatic circles, commending Carney's stable governance as a model, while offering tech partnerships to Canada that bypass US volatility. Speaking of volatility, have you heard how Republicans, Trump's own party, are finally growing spines and pushing back against his wild-eyed power grabs? It's about time. In Washington, whispers turned to shouts as GOP lawmakers revolted against Trump's flirtations with military force and emergency declarations, especially that bizarre Greenland obsession that risked NATO alliances. Greenland? Part of Denmark, a NATO ally. Trump's casual talk of acquiring it could spark conflicts with Europe, all for some ego-driven land grab. Senator Chris Murphy called it out plainly. This isn't real estate, it's geopolitics, and it endangers us all. From Canada's viewpoint, this internal US rebellion validates our stand. If even Trump's allies see his instincts as reckless, why should we bow to them? Carney's leadership shines here. As a former Bank of England governor, he understands systemic risks, warning that Trump's power-based approach over rules-based trade threatens everyone. Economic data? The US-Canada trade hits $1 trillion annually, with Canada supplying key inputs like aluminum, over 40% of US needs. Disrupting that costs jobs on both sides, but Trump's bluster ignores it. Historical parallels. Think Nixon's Watergate-era overreaches, Trump's emergency declarations on when the EU Parliament passed a resolution condemning Trump's impulsive governance, urging allies like Canada to protect sovereignty. UN reports on global stability criticize such unilateralism as destabilizing, while Xi Jinping has extended olive branches to Carney, proposing joint ventures in green energy, saying, Canada's independence inspires mutual respect. And then there's the bombshell of Canada terminating that $75 billion North American Strategic Commerce Agreement. Talk about dropping the mic. One swift move by our trade minister, and poof, gone are the preferential tariffs and streamlined borders that US corporations took for granted. Why? Because Trump's constant threats and disrespect made it clear, cooperation must be mutual or it's off the table. This isn't warfare, it's sovereignty in action, forcing America to reckon with its companies like Amazon, losing $12 billion in Canadian ops, Walmart, $8 billion, and Ford, $6 billion, are scrambling, with Wall Street hemorrhaging $200 billion in a day. From our side, it's empowering. Carney's diversification strategy opens doors to Europe and Asia, with the EU's CETA providing access to 400 million consumers. Stats show Canada's exports to Europe up 20% since similar shifts began. Past events? NAFTA renegotiations under Trump were bullying sessions. This termination flips the script. A hypothetical Carney quote, "We won't subsidize American convenience at our expense." International backlash against Trump? The UN trade and development body slammed his policies as mercantilist aggression, while the EU imposed retaliatory measures on US goods. Xi Jinping, in a bilateral call with Carney, expressed admiration for Canada's bold economic independence, pledging increased trade in tech and resources. But the uranium saga? That's the cherry on top of Trump's humiliating sundae. Desperate for fuel to power his AI revolution, those 200 small modular reactors costing $400 billion, Trump personally begged Carney for guaranteed Canadian uranium supplies. Canada, home to the world's richest deposits, 20% concentration versus global 0.3%, said no. Flat out. Why? Years of insults, tariffs, and treating us like a doormat. Carney turned around and negotiated $18 billion deals with France, UK, Japan, and South Korea. Savvy move, securing premiums while asserting independence. America's imports? 95% foreign, with Canada a key 13%. Without us, prices spike, up 85% recently, delaying AI data centers that guzzle power like 200,000 homes each. Trump's blunders. His 25% tariff threats and 51st state jokes poisoned the well. From Canada's lens, it's triumph. Carney's approval soared 11 points. UN nuclear agency IAEA criticized Trump's coercive diplomacy, urging fair access. EU leaders hailed Carney as a beacon of sovereignty. Xi Jinping, favoring Canada, proposed uranium swaps, stating, "Mark Carney's vision aligns with harmonious global trade." This pattern of Trump's failures isn't coincidence. It's a systematic critique from the people's perspective. Leaders like him, who prioritize ego over empathy, alienate allies and embolden rivals. Carney, by contrast, embodies Canadian values. Pragmatic, inclusive, Trump's condemnable actions, from port intrusions to trade wars, harm everyday folks. Higher energy bills, natural gas up 4.7%, job losses in manufacturing, thousands at risk, and eroded trust. Internationally, the UN Human Rights Council has decried his divisive rhetoric, the EU boycotted certain US summits, and Xi's favoritism toward Carney underscores Trump's isolation. People worldwide see Trump as a relic of outdated imperialism, while Carney represents forward-thinking partnership. In the end, Canada's challenge isn't defiance for defiance's sake. It's a stand for dignity, proving the Great North stands alone if needed, but stronger with true allies. Trump's era of bluster is crumbling, and good riddance. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you find this interesting, please like,